Hello everyone, welcome back. Today I want to talk about a video I saw this week which featured Sargon of Akkad, also known as Carl Benjamin, although I don't think anyone actually knows him as that, primarily. In the video he was defending his tweet that he sent to Member of Parliament Jess Phillips, in which he said that he would not even rape her. In the video he's talking to what seems to just be a random member of the public who chose to sit down with him and record a conversation where she argued that it was inappropriate, disrespectful, offensive, whatever, and he defended it and said that he will not apologise for making it. What I thought was interesting was not exactly anything that Sargon said in particular, because he was pretty much sticking to what I expected him to say, but I was interested in what the woman he was talking to was saying, although she was not particularly articulate or apparently not very seasoned debater. I wouldn't hold that against her. She was just having a discussion. It wasn't supposed to be a formal debate, and she was doing pretty well, I think, judging by that standard. Rather than just saying something completely empty, like saying that the tweet was offensive or that it was disrespectful or something that has no specific meaning behind it, she did give a few arguments as to why she found the tweet to be offensive. And I was, I suppose, not surprised, but I was somewhat fascinated by how adamantly she argued against this tweet and against Sargon specifically. She seemed to be, I don't want to say upset about it, she wasn't being hysterical, but she seemed very disturbed by it, and she brought up rape quite a lot, which is, fair enough. He used the word rape in the tweet, and it was, I think, one of the main points that people did not like about the tweet. I should mention that it's a tweet that's several years old at this point, but it got brought up again recently by a journalist who was speaking to Sargon, Carl Benjamin, about his running for a UKIP MEP position, that is the Member of Parliament for the European Union. On a side note, I think it's pretty bizarre that YouTubers are now running for political offices, but that's neither here nor there for this video. I just think it's somewhat surreal. In one of my previous videos, I talked about the book by Jonathan Haidt called The Righteous Mind, where he argues that there are the things that we are disgusted by or that we find abhorrent are not exactly decided on with our logical minds. They are instinctive reactions that we have to things, and I think this Sargon's tweet, where he said to Jess Phillips that he wouldn't even rape her, is one such thing that on the face of it is quite offensive. I don't think that's a controversial statement. I don't think there's anything particularly wrong with making offensive jokes personally. I'm going to get a bit into the nuances of that in a bit, but I think saying that it's offensive is pretty accurate. But to say something is offensive is not to say anything particularly meaningful. It just means that it's, on the face of it, quite, I suppose, alarming. It's not something that you would say to your mother, for instance. You wouldn't say such a thing at a cordial family lunch, say. That's not to say that I believe Sargon should or should not apologise for saying it. I think if he stands by saying it, then he's right not to apologise, but if he stands by it, if he's changed his mind about how appropriate it was to make that comment at the time, then apologising would perhaps be a good thing to do for him. It would be completely pointless of him to apologise for saying it if he felt absolutely no remorse and he was just doing it to appear good, I suppose. I think empty apologies are completely useless and maybe even a little bit detrimental. I think the question that we should ask, and the question that this woman was attempting to answer, was to what degree can we judge Sargon, Carl Benjamin, for what he said? How much does this statement reflect his thoughts on rape, his thoughts on women, his thoughts on Jess Phillips? I think it's important to recognise the context that the tweet was written in, just without going too deeply into exactly what it was about Jess Phillips that Sargon was objecting to. It's important to recognise that he is, I don't want to say a comedian, but he is an entertainer on YouTube, and that's particularly what he was back then. He's a political commentator who often brings in jokes in order to, keep his audience. He's not someone I would say is really funny or like primarily funny as his main draw for an audience, but it's definitely something he incorporates into his videos and into his rhetoric. I think it's pretty obvious, no matter what else you think about the comment, that it was not meant sincerely. Whatever else you think about Sargon based on this comment, I think it would be a rather large stretch to assume that he is a rapist. And I don't think I've actually seen anybody who says that. I think to be generous to the woman he was arguing with, we could charge Sargon of Akkad with 2 crimes that he committed during this tweet. I don't mean actual crimes that you can be punished by law for. I just mean character flaws. There are 2 character flaws we could draw out of this, possibly either one or the other or both, or neither. One thing that the woman in the video brings up is this kind of narrative of oppression and victimhood status. I'm going to paraphrase it into punching down, which is a kind of more, I think it's a pretty modern phrase. For instance, if you're a rich person and you're making fun of poor people specifically for being poor, that would be considered punching down, I think. Someone who is rich making fun of a poor person is a lot less funny and a lot less tasteful than poor people making fun of rich people. The woman in the conversation with Sargon doesn't say it specifically in these terms, but I think what you could draw out of what she said is that because Sargon is male, using rape in a way to mock a woman is punching down. He's oppressing her because he's a man and she's a woman. And the woman in this video considers Jess Phillips, or just women in general, to be the primary victims of rape. There are some statistics that could say otherwise. I think it's a rather interesting question that I'm not going to get into in this video, but I think that is part of the underlying narrative. Of course, I'm not a mind reader. I don't know if that's what the woman in this video thinks or what she's saying, but that's kind of what I got from it. Because Sargon is a man, it's punching down of him to make jokes about rape to a woman. Sargon then replies to this saying that Jess Phillips is a member of parliament, and at the time when he wrote the tweet, he's just a YouTuber, he's a nobody. A member of parliament is someone who, rather objectively, has political power. That's what it means to be in the parliament. It means you have some power politically. What's more, she's probably more famous in the mainstream, British media, among the British public, compared to Sargon. I think it's a rather interesting question, who has more power, YouTubers or members of parliament. It's, I guess it's kind of like a Game of Thrones riddle about what it really means to have power. Again, not something I really have time to get into right now. What I do think makes this situation a little bit more interesting in terms of punching down or punching up is the fact that Sargon of Akkad may soon be a member of parliament, a member of the European Parliament. So he would be kind of colleagues with Jess Phillips. So the comment made, if he made the same comment now compared to a few years ago, the dynamic might be a little bit different. Personally, I don't think I would read it any differently just because of his political status. But the second crime that I would want to charge Sargon with based on this comment is a little bit harder to define, because it's just about how appropriate is it to use the word rape in a joke to mock someone. I don't mean to mock a woman in particular, since we've already gone through that part. I'm sort of dissecting this into 2 parts. The first part is about men making fun of women in particular ways. I want to discuss whether it's okay to use rape in any kind of joke. The woman in the video talks a lot about rape and about how it's an oppressive act, and she's very passionate about it. I think this is probably the most energetic she gets in the video, is talking about the injustice of rape, almost as if Sargon had raped someone. It seemed like just by invoking rape and by describing how terrible an act rape is, the woman thought that she was getting at a point about Sargon's comment, even though he hasn't raped anyone. So saying that rape is bad does not necessarily lead to saying that his tweet was in bad taste or makes him a bad person or something. It's a little bit difficult to figure out what exactly she might mean when she talking about rape, since she never actually sort of finishes the point. She doesn't contain the argument in a sort of premise, conclusion sort of structure, or just a simple premise, conclusion structure. She's just talking about rape and it never really goes anywhere. That's what I meant about her not being very articulate. It's possible that she has no point at all and she was just, I'm not sure, to be honest. But if I was being as charitable as I could be, I think perhaps she was saying that rape is such a despicable act that to even make a joke that mentions rape or to mock anyone with the concept of rape is to make light of the subject. That's something that I've heard talked about a number of subjects. It's not something that I personally think is really accurate. I don't think making a joke about something indicates that you do not take that thing seriously. In my personal opinion, I don't think there's anything about Sargon's tweet that would indicate to me that he does not take rape seriously as an issue and as a despicable act. It's pretty hard to describe what makes a joke funny, but I think one of the things that people often use to invoke mirth is to bring up something incredibly shocking and a very something that evokes a response, an emotional response, such as rape. To use something that is really horrible and then to put that into a joke, it puts you on your back foot a little bit. It's a little bit shocking, and that's kind of what makes it funny. Making a joke about something that's naughty, I also think it's important to note that Sargon was responding to a comment Jess Phillips made, where she said that rape threats do not bother her, that she gets a lot of rape threats on Twitter and that they don't bother her very much. So for him to respond with, "I wouldn't even rape you," it's a little bit less harsh than it might seem, considering it was in direct response to her saying that she is not bothered at all by rape threats. If she said that she was a rape survivor, a rape victim, I don't know what the correct term is for that, but if she said that she was very upset by the mention of rape for a good reason, then mocking her with the concept of rape would be seen as a lot more cruel, and I think I probably wouldn't find that funny. She also said after the fact, according to Sargon, I haven't been able to back this up, but Sargon says that Jess Phillips apparently was not bothered at all by his comment either, just as she wasn't bothered by the normal rape comments and rape threats she gets on Twitter. She wasn't bothered by Sargon's comment either. As sad as it is to say, I think being in the public eye probably does expose you to a lot of pretty horrible things on Twitter, and I don't just mean for women, I mean for men and women. You just get a lot of daily abuse, I think, verbal abuse. And it is probably something that you get used to, so I completely believe that Jess Phillips wouldn't mind at all Sargon saying that, although she probably would rather that he didn't. I don't think it probably ruined her day. And finally, I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about why it is that we make fun of women's appearance on their attractiveness. If we want to hurt their feelings, if we want to insult a woman, we'll usually insult her appearance or attractiveness. For men, by contrast, you can insult men by questioning their sexuality or their manliness. You can mock a man by mocking his sexual position. You could say his amount of sexual power, I suppose. But with women, I think it's a kind of mirror image where we mock women for their sexual power, which is mostly drawn from their physical attractiveness. For instance, if you wanted to mock a woman, you probably wouldn't call her a virgin or an incel. It's just not the done thing. I'm not saying it never happens, but it's much more likely that a man would be called a virgin than a woman in a mocking way. And in the same way, I think it's seen as much worse for a woman to be very ugly compared to a man being very ugly. And I think the reasons for that are pretty complicated. I'd actually like to go into that more here, but I don't think I really have time. It's already quite a long video. I want to do a live stream this week. I mentioned it in my last video that I want to raise some more money like I did last year. I still haven't got a really good idea for a charity that I both wholeheartedly support and that is easy to donate to in a live streaming format. I'm afraid that I might have to collect the money into my own bank account and then do one big deposit, which I really wouldn't like to do. I'd like people to donate directly to the charity in my name. I think doing the live stream last year was really good fun. We talked about some interesting things and it was great interacting with all of you viewers. I've got roughly double the number of subscribers now, so I'm hoping we can get some more people. I'm going to keep the target at £500, which is what you raised last year. We only raised that because of one last-minute donor who I still haven't identified, who was very generous and brought us up to the target of £500. This year, I think we can probably make up that target with just more smaller donations instead of having to rely on someone to come in and save me at the end. Every time I've done a live stream in the past, I've had problems with my internet speed, but this year I've watched some YouTube videos and I've been looking into how to optimize the streaming software so that it will prioritize what I'm saying over what you're looking at, so that you will at least be able to pay attention, you'll at least be able to follow my train of thought even if the picture breaks up and that sort of thing, so that the streaming experience, I hope, will be a lot better for the viewer this time around. I'm going to stream over a few hours so that people in different time zones can drop in and out as they need to, according to their sleep patterns. I'm going to cautiously suggest that I'll be streaming on Saturday night, that is this weekend. I can't do next weekend. But if you turn on your notifications, you will be notified a few hours before the stream so that you can get ready for it if you're ready. You'll be there from the very start. The stream may or may not be posted as a video afterwards. I don't know. It all depends on what I say and the way I say it and whether I'm proud of my actions afterwards. It's going to be rather fast and loose, and I may talk about some things. I may accidentally reveal my personal details. Who knows what could happen? I could accidentally say a racial slur. So you better watch it live because it might not be available afterwards. As always, thank you very much for watching. Please leave your comments on anything that I've said in the video that you either agree with or disagree with, or if you think I mispronounced a word or got something wrong, just let me know. I read all of my comments under my videos and I try to reply to at least some of them. Hope to see you in the stream later this week, and I hope you have a good night or day or whatever it is for you.
Yes. I get the idea of controversy. Politicians do it quite a lot.
Of course.
Why that particular thing?
Oh, just...
Of all of the other controversial things, you could have said,
yeah.
Why that?
Because I knew it would work.
Because you knew that it was particularly sensitive.
Yes.
Particularly emotive.
Yes.
Particularly oppressive.
I don't agree that is a form of oppression.
Of course it's a form of oppression.
Well, how do you define...